The girl in the corner. It was raining again. Cold drops of water hit the steel streets of the spaceport, making tiny splashes that reflected the neon lights above. People rushed past, wrapping their coats tighter, hiding their faces. No one wanted to stay outside in this weather. Kale was walking back from the repair bay, his toolbox heavy in his hand. He was tired. He just wanted to reach his small apartment above the hangar and sleep. But then he saw her. She was sitting in the darkest corner between two buildings. A girl, not human. Her knees were pulled to her chest, her thin arms wrapped tightly around them. Her clothes were nothing more than torn rags, wet and sticking to her body. Her hair hung over her face, dirty and tangled. But what caught Kale's attention was the way people acted around her. They didn't just ignore her, they avoided her like she was poison. Some crossed the street to stay far away. Others whispered to each other, throwing nervous glances at her. One man spat on the ground as he passed. "Filthy thing," he muttered. Kale slowed down. Something didn't feel right. He had seen poor beggars before, even aliens living on the streets. But this was different. There was fear in people's eyes. Fear of her as he stepped closer. He noticed a metal collar around her neck. A small red light blinked on it, steady and slow. He knew what that meant. It was a tracking collar. Only criminals or dangerous creatures had those. The girl looked up suddenly, and Kale's breath caught. Her eyes were large and strange, glowing faintly in the dim light. She looked scared, but there was also something else in her gaze. Desperation. Before he could speak, the owner of a nearby food stall shouted, "Hey, human, stay away from her." Kale turned. Why? The man's face was pale. "She's trouble. Dangerous, they say. Her kind carries the black rot. Touch her, and you'll be dead in a week." Kale frowned. He had heard of the black rot before, but it was rare, most a myth. And he doubted the stories told in a place like this. He looked back at the girl. She was shivering, water dripping from her hair. She looked so small, so fragile. "Do you want food?" Kale asked, his voice gentle. She didn't answer. Her eyes darted to the ground. Kale took a step forward. People nearby stopped to watch. Some whispered, others shook their heads. "Don't," someone muttered behind him. Kale ignored them. He knelt down so he was closer to her level. "You're freezing. Let me help you." For a long moment, she didn't move. Then, slowly, she lifted her head again, her glowing eyes locking on his. There was fear there, but also a spark of hope. Kale held out his hand. Rain dripped from his fingers. "Come on, I won't hurt you." A hush fell over the street. People around them stared. Even the sound of the rain seemed to fade. The girl's hand twitched, then slowly began to rise toward his. Her fingers were thin, shaking the moment their skin touched the collar on her neck. Beeped once, twice. Then the red light began to flash. Rapidly, gasps erupted from the crowd. Someone screamed. A woman grabbed her child and ran top from the far end. Of the street came the sound of heavy boot soldiers. Their black armor reflected the neon lights as they pushed through the crowd, weapons ready. The girl's eyes went wide with terror. She tried to pull her hand away, but Kale held it tight. "What's going on?" he asked quickly. She shook her head, tears mixing with the rain. "They'll take me back," she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. "Back where?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to be, 'cause Kale could already see the soldiers getting closer. Their boots splashing in the puddles, their helmets turning toward him. "Hey!" one shouted. "Step away from the girl." Kale's mind raced. Every instinct told him to let go, to walk away before he got himself into trouble. But then he saw her. She wasn't dangerous. She was scared, alone. And if he let go now, she was finished. He stood, pulling her up with him. She stumbled, weak from hunger and cold, but didn't resist. The soldiers were almost there. Cale glanced around. To the left, a narrow alley disappeared. Between buildings, if they ran, they might have a chance. He tightened his grip on her hand. "Run," he said. She hesitated. "Why? Why are you helping me?" Cale didn't answer. He just pulled her toward the alley behind them. The soldiers shouted, and the sound of their boots grew louder. The girl looked over her shoulder and froze when she saw a new figure at the end of the street. A tall man in a black coat, standing, completely still, watching them. His face was hidden under the shadow of his hood. But Cale felt the weight of his gaze like a knife. The man raised a small device to his mouth. "I found her," he said, his voice cold. The girl's grip tightened on Cale's hand. "Please," she whispered, "don't let them take me." Cale didn't know what he was getting himself into. But he knew one thing: he couldn't walk away now. The alley loomed ahead. Soldiers and the man in black closed in from both sides. Rain hammered down harder, and then they ran. The first touch, the rain hit harder, as if the sky itself was trying to wash them away. Cale and the alien girl ran through the narrow alley, their feet splashing through puddles, their breath coming in sharp bursts. Behind them, the sound of heavy boots echoed like a war drum. The girl stumbled, and Cale caught her before she fell. For the first time, his hand wrapped fully around hers. It was warm, not just warm alive. A faint pulse ran through her skin, like a hidden heartbeat that didn't belong to her. Cale felt a strange vibration crawl up his arm, making the hairs on his neck stand up. The moment stretched until the collar on her neck gave a high-pitched beep that cut through the rain. Cale's eyes widened. The red light on the collar blinked. Faster, faster, until it was a blur. The girl gasped, clutching her throat as if the collar was burning her. From the street they had just left, people screamed. Cale risked a glance back and saw the soldiers break into a run, their visors glowing red. "What's happening to you?" Cale demanded. Her voice shook. "You touched me." "Now they know exactly where we are." Before Cale could ask more, a deep thunk echoed through the alley. Something metallic rolled toward them, bouncing over the wet cobblestones. A grenade? Cale didn't think. He shoved the girl behind a stack of crates and threw himself over her. The grenade burst, no fire, no shrapnel, but a blinding pulse of blue light that made his bones feel like they were vibrating apart. When his vision cleared, the air was full of humming shapes, small black drones, no bigger than fists, spinning slowly in the rain. Their glassy eyes turned toward the girl. "They're not here for me," Cale realized aloud. "They're only scanning you." The girl's breathing was ragged. "They won't stop until I'm back in the cages." Something in Cale's gut twisted. Not gonna happen. He grabbed her hand again. She flinched. "No," she cried. "If you keep touching me, the collar will." The collar flared, and the drones swarmed closer. Cale pulled her to her feet. Too late for that. They bolted deeper into the alley, but the path split into 3 narrow tunnels, each twisting away into darkness. Cale stopped, scanning quickly. "Which way?" She shook her head wildly. "I don't know this place." The humming grew louder. Shadows stretched as more drones slid into the alley from behind them. Then Cale saw it. An old maintenance hatch, half hidden under a rusted metal sheet. He dropped to his knees, yanking it open. A wave of hot, stale air poured out. "In," he ordered. The girl hesitated, glancing back toward the approaching red glow of the soldiers' visors. Then she crawled inside. Cale followed, pulling the hatch closed behind them. They slid down a short, narrow chute and landed in knee-deep water. The space was dark, smelling of oil and rot. Pipes ran along the walls, dripping slowly into the black water. For a moment, the only sound was their breathing. Then, from somewhere deep in the tunnels, came a slow metallic tapping dot. Tap, tap, dop. The girl's glowing eyes met his in the dark. They sent him, she whispered. Who? Her answer was a shiver that traveled through her whole body. The tapping grew louder. Cale didn't know who or what was coming, but the way she looked at him told him one thing. Whatever was down here was worse than the soldiers. And in the darkness, still holding her hand, Cale realized the strange warmth was still there. But now it felt stronger, almost like it was moving toward his heart. The truth under the dirt, the tunnel, was dark. Too dark. Cale could barely see the girl's outline in front of him as they waded through the black water. The dripping of the pipes was the only steady sound, until the tapping returned. Tap, tap. Tapped. It was closer now. Cale's instinct screamed move. He pulled the girl along, searching the walls for another exit. I know what you're thinking, she whispered suddenly. Cale glanced at her. Yeah, what am I thinking? That you should leave me here? You'd be safe if you did. Cale snorted. Not really my style. She didn't answer. Instead, she stumbled, catching herself on the wall. Something scraped her arm, knocking away a layer of caked mud and grime. Cale froze. Beneath the dirt, her skin was glowing, not faint, like her eyes brighter, almost white gold, like light trapped under glass. The glow shimmered and pulsed, moving like liquid through her veins. Cale had never seen anything like it. What is that? He asked. She pulled her arm away, trying to hide it again. It's why they want me back. The tapping echoed again, followed by a faint metallic scrape, like claws on steel. Cale's voice dropped low. You want to explain before we meet whatever's making that sound? Her shoulders trembled. My people. We can speak to machines, not with words, but inside we can tell them to stop, to break, to die. Cale blinked. You mean you can control tech? Her eyes met his, glowing in the dark. Yes, but to them? I'm a weapon that should never be free. The tapping was almost on top of them now. Cale saw a faint red light reflect on the water surface. Guess your inside voice works on more than just machines, Cale muttered. A shadow emerged. From the darkness, a tall, thin figure in black armor. Its face was hidden under a smooth metal mask, and in its hands was a long spear crackling with blue energy. The girl's grip on Cale's arm tightened. It's not human, she breathed. The figure tilted its head, the mask's red islands focusing on her. Then, in a voice like steel scraping stone, it said, Target confirmed. Cale stepped in front of her without thinking. Not today. The figure moved fast, faster than any soldier Cale had ever fought. The spear struck forward and stopped. The water around them rippled as every light on the figure's armor went dead. The blue energy from the spear fizzled out like a dying flame. Cale looked at the girl. She was staring at the figure, her skin glowing brighter, her hands trembling. Run, she whispered. Cale didn't argue. They splashed through the water, leaving the frozen figure standing in the dark. After several turns through the tunnels, they finally climbed up into a maintenance room lit by a single flickering bulb. The girl sank to the floor, breathing hard. Cale crouched in front of her. That wasn't a sickness. That was power. She didn't meet his eyes. It's both. My power makes me valuable, but it's also killing me. Cale frowned. Killing you, she nodded. The glow burns from inside. My people were dying because of it, but the ones who survived became weapons. I'm one of the last. The sound of boots echoed in the distance above them, soldiers, still searching. Cale stood, offering her his hand again. Then, let's make sure you stay the last for as long as possible. This time, she didn't hesitate. She took his hand. The glow under her skin pulsed once stronger than before. Somewhere deep inside, Cale felt it answer. The bounty, the rain, had stopped by the time Cale and the girl climbed out of the maintenance hatch. They emerged into a back street behind the markets, steam curling from vents in the walls. The city seemed quieter, here too quiet. Even the distant hum of hovercars was gone. Cale scanned the shadows. We need somewhere to hide. The girl Sura nodded, clutching the ragged cloth around her shoulders. Her glowing eyes darted to every sound. They found a small warehouse with its doors half open. Inside, the air smelled of dust and rust. Old cargo crates sat in uneven. Rose, forgotten. Cale pulled one over, making a small hiding spot. Rest here. I'll keep watch. But before Sura could answer, a slow clap echoed from the far corner of the warehouse. Cale spun around, his hand going to the wrench at his belt. A tall figure stepped into the weak light. Not a soldier. A bounty hunter. Cale could tell from the armor's sleek, dark plates reinforced with flexible mesh. A long rifle was slung across the hunter's back, but in his hand was something far worse. A tagging spike. Only one reason a bounty hunter carried a spike like that: to mark a target, so every tracking system in the sector could find them. You made it difficult to follow, the hunter said, his voice calm, almost polite. I admire that. Most people who touch her are dead before the second alley. Sura's breathing quickened. You don't have to do this. The hunter's visor tilted slightly. You're right. I don't have to. But do you have any idea what your bounty is worth? I could retire on this. Cale stepped in front of her. You'll have to kill me first. The hunter chuckled. Not my style. Besides, he raised the tagging spike and pointed it at Cale. Your death would lower her price. She's more valuable when she's afraid. Sura's glow flared faintly under her skin. Cale? If I touch him, don't. Cale warned quickly, but the hunter's hand moved faster than thought. The spike flew. Sura's hand shot out and caught Cale's wrist. The warmth surged between them again, this time like a shock. Cale felt the world slow, colors sharpening, sounds stretching. The spike froze in midair. Literally froze, suspended like it had been trapped in invisible glass. Cale's eyes went wide. You stopped it. Sura didn't answer. She let go of his wrist, and the spike dropped harmlessly into the water on the floor. The hunter didn't move, but his visor tilted again, as if reassessing them. Interesting, he murmured. They said you could kill machines, but a human's weapon. That's new. Cale took a step forward. Guess your day just got worse. The hunter's voice was cold now. No, it just got more profitable. Behind him, the sound of machinery filled the air, something heavy dragging across the floor. Out of the shadows stepped a massive hunting drone, its 4 metal legs clanging against the warehouse tiles. Its twin cannons whirred to life, aiming straight at Cale and Sura. Sura's eyes glowed brighter. I can shut it down, she whispered, but not without them knowing where we are. Cale gritted his teeth. Then we'd do it fast. She reached out her hand. The drone's eyes turned white. Sparks burst from its joints. The smell of burning circuits filled the room. It collapsed with a deafening crash. For a moment, there was silence. Then the hunter spoke again, calm as ever. They'll double the bounty after this, he said. And now, every hunter in the quadrant will come for you. Cale didn't look away from him. Let them. But inside, he knew this wasn't just about hiding anymore. It was about surviving a galaxy that had just decided both of them were worth hunting. Running through fire, the hunter didn't try to stop them. He just stood there, visor tilted, as Kale grabbed Saray's arm and pulled her toward the open doors. That was the worst part. The hunter's stillness meant only one thing: he wasn't worried about losing them the instant they stepped outside. The trap was sprung, the street erupted in chaos, drones swooping overhead, spraying blinding lights into their faces, and the sharp crack of stun rounds hitting the ground around them. "Left!" Kale shouted. They ducked into a narrow passage between buildings, neon signs buzzing overhead. The smell of hot oil and alien spices clung to the air. Behind them, the hunter's voice came through a speaker. "Bring them in alive. Both of them." Sora's hand burned in Kale's grip. Her glow was stronger now, as if fear fueled it. Then the first explosion hit. A market stall up ahead went up in flames, its tarpaulin roof melting into black strings. The fire leaped fast, feeding on some chemical. In the air, the street became an inferno in seconds, cutting them off. Kale's eyes darted upward. Above the fire, a tangle of pipes ran along the building walls. If they could climb, hold on, he told her, and without waiting for an answer, he lifted her toward the lowest pipe. She grabbed it, swinging herself up with surprising strength. Kale followed, heat licking at his boots. They climbed higher, moving across the pipes, but the drones adapted fast. 3 of them swooped up from below, spinning blades unfolding from their sides. Sora pressed herself against the wall. "I can take them out," she said, "but the hunter will know our exact position." Kale gritted his teeth. "Do it." Her glow flared. The drones froze mid-flight, sparks flying from their cores. One by one, they dropped, hitting the street. Below, with metallic THUDs, they kept moving until they reached a rooftop. From here, the city stretched out in every direction, towering glass spires, bridges lit with alien symbols, and beyond that, the faint curve of the planet's defense wall. It would have been beautiful if not for the shapes moving. Between the rooftops, more hunters. Kale turned to Sora. "We're not going to make it to my ship like this." She shook her head, then hesitated. "There's somewhere else. A people had a safe house. It's underground, deep enough to hide us from scanners." Where? She pointed toward the industrial district, a cluster of massive smokestacks, pouring black clouds into the sky. Kale frowned. "That's 2 sectors over. We can get there," she said firmly. "We use the old sky tram." Before Kale could answer, a sharp thunk sounded beside his ear. The key turned, a grappling hook was lodged in the wall behind them. The hunter stepped onto the rooftop from the opposite side, rifle in hand. The visor tilted again, as if amused. End of the line. Kale didn't think. He grabbed Sora and ran straight for the edge of the roof. "You're insane," she shouted. "Probably." Kale yelled back. They jumped. For one terrifying second, there was only the rush of wind and the blur of lights. Then Kale's boots slammed onto the roof of a lower building. His knees buckled, but he kept moving. Behind them, the hunter followed. Landing without a sound, they reached the edge of the building and saw the Skytram line ahead, thin rails stretching across the air between towers. A single tram car hung in the distance, abandoned and swaying slightly in the wind. Kale grinned. "That's our ride." But when they got closer, they saw something that froze him in his tracks. The tram wasn't just abandoned, it was covered in vines, black metal-looking vines that pulsed faintly, as if alive. Sora's eyes widened. "That's not from this planet." Before Kale could ask what she meant, the vines twitched, and then they started moving toward them. The power unleashed, the vines moved like snakes. They slithered over the rusted tramcar, curling around its metal frame. The sound they made wasn't natural, it was a faint metallic scrape, like 2 blades brushing together. Kale's first thought was that they were some kind of alien plant. But then he saw tiny sparks crawling along their length, like they were feeding on electricity. The vines weren't alive in the usual way. They were something else. Behind them, the bounty hunter landed on the tram platform, visor glinting. "Under the pale lights, you've just stepped into something worse than me," he said calmly. "Step back, and maybe you'll survive it." Sora's eyes never left the vines. These aren't supposed to be here. One vine stretched toward her, pulsing faster, as if sensing her glow. Kale pulled her back. "We can go around." But the vines didn't give them a choice. The moment Sora moved, they lashed forward faster than whip slamming into the metal railing where they had been standing. The impact bent steel like it was wet clay. The hunter aimed his rifle. But before he could fire, the vines shot upward and wrapped around the barrel, crushing it with a screech. Sparks rained to the floor. "Great," Kale muttered. "Now, there?" After everyone, Sora's breathing quickened. "They're listening to me." Kale glanced at her. "What?" "They're not machines, but I can feel them. Like they're part metal, part something else. I can push them away." The hunter barked a sharp laugh. "Push them away?" "Girl, those are living cables. They eat power and you're glowing like a reactor." The vines lunged again, this time wrapping around Sora's legs. She gasped, dropping to her knees. Kale grabbed the nearest vine, trying to pull it off, but it was like trying to tear steel wires. Sora. Her glow flared, so bright it painted the entire tram station in white gold light. The vines shuddered, pulling back as if burned. Then something strange happened. Instead of retreating completely, the vines froze and began mirroring her movements. She lifted her hand slowly. The vines rose with it. Kale stared. "You're controlling them." Sora's voice was shaky. "Not exactly. They're obeying. Like they've been waiting for me." The hunter took a slow step forward, visor tilting. "Interesting. Maybe? You're worth more alive than I thought." Before Kale could respond, the vines suddenly snapped their focus to the hunter. In one smooth motion, they lashed out, wrapping around his torso and yanking him off his feet. He hit the platform hard, his armor screeching under the pressure. Kale stepped closer to Sora. "You can end this right now." Her jaw clenched. "If I do, I might not be able to stop." The hunter struggled against the vines, his voice tight. "You think you're free now? Use that power too much, and you'll burn yourself out. That's why they all died." Sora's glow flickered. She looked at Kale, eyes wide. "Is that true?" Kale didn't answer. He just reached for her hand. "You choose who you are, not them. Right now, we need to get out of here." She nodded slowly. The glow dimmed. The vines loosened their grip on the hunter, dropping him to the floor. Before he could recover, Sora guided the vines aside, clearing a path to the tram. Kale dragged her inside, slamming the door shut. The tram's old systems whined as he forced them online, as the tram lurched forward, leaving the station behind. Kale glanced at Sora. "You didn't just control them, did you?" She shook her head. "No, they recognized me." Outside the window, the vines receded into the shadows, but Kale couldn't shake the feeling they weren't gone. They were waiting. The choice the Skytram rattled over the city, its ancient tracks groaning under the weight. Through the cracked windows, Kale could see the endless sprawl below towering spires. Endless alleys, and the flicker of patrol drones sweeping the streets. Sora sat across from him, her knees drawn up, the faint golden glow still pulsing under her skin. She hadn't spoken since they left the vines behind. Kale broke the silence. "You're thinking about what the hunter said." Her eyes lifted, glowing faintly in the dark. "He's right. If I keep using my power, it will burn me from the inside." Kale leaned back, arms crossed. "And if you don't use it, they'll catch you." The tram rocked hard, making the floor tremble. somewhere far behind. A deep boom echoed a sound Kale recognized instantly. A warship had entered the city's airspace. "They found us," he muttered. Sora's gaze dropped to the floor. "I can make them lose us. Not just for now, forever." Kale frowned. "How?" She looked up, and for the first time, there was no fear in her expression, only certainty. "My people's safe house isn't just a place to hide. It's a core, a living machine buried under the city. If I connect to it, I can send a signal across the entire sector. I can erase my presence from every scanner, every record. It would be like I never existed." "That sounds perfect," Kale said cautiously. Her voice hardened. "It would also kill the core. Without it, the city's defense systems will collapse. Millions could die in the next attack." Kale stared at her. "So the choice is, you live and the city burns, or you give yourself up to save them." She nodded. "And if I give myself up, they'll turn me into a weapon. They'll burn worlds with me instead." The tram passed over the industrial district now, smokestacks rising like jagged fingers. The safe house was somewhere deep below. Kale stood and crossed to her, kneeling so they were eye to eye. "You're not making this choice alone." Her voice was barely a whisper. "You'd help me destroy the core." "I'd help you survive," Kale said. "But if you decide to protect the city, I'll fight beside you until the last breath." The tram screeched as it slowed for the next station. Through the grimy window, Kale saw shadows moving on the platform, soldiers in black armor, rifles ready. They had seconds to decide. Sora's hands trembled in her lap. The glow under her skin flared brighter, like it was answering the question for her. She stood, her voice steady now. "We go to the core. We end this on our terms." Kale gave a sharp nod. "Then we make sure they never get close enough to touch you again." The tram doors hissed open, and the soldiers turned toward them only to be met with a blast of white gold light that swallowed the station whole. When the glow faded, Kale and Sura were gone. Far above, the warship scanners blinked once, twice, and then went dark, and somewhere deep below the city, the living core shuddered because it had just felt the touch of someone it had been waiting for.